Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Fox Ancestor of the Wilderness. Against heaven. At the beginning of modern youth's journey through the wilderness, opportunities abound here, but there are also deadly dangers. With his understanding of the future, Bai Hao originally intended to seize opportunities and become a saint. Unexpectedly, he occupied the fox ancestor who was destined to fall, but he, who has come from later generations, knows that the fate of the fox tribe is not good in the future, and there are no strong ones. However, Bai Hao does not believe in any fate. Since he was reborn here, the wilderness will definitely change because of him. At this time, Sanqing and others had not yet been born, and even the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin tribes had not risen. At this time, although the flood and famine were full of dangers, opportunities were also everywhere. See how Bai Hao plunders opportunities with his foresight, moves step by step, and changes his destiny against the heavensFeilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1 Empress Descendants to the Treasure of Kongtong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the fast-paced life of modern cities, there are countless unknown young people living a 9.2.5 life. Bai Hao can be said to be the most common group of people with no property, no car, and no money. He grew up with his grandfather since his parents died, barely attending an ordinary university, and after graduation, he worked hard for his job. In modern cities, college students are everywhere, and with their diplomas, they haven't found any good jobs, barely making ends meet with a basic monthly salary. Even so, he never gave up because he still had an elderly grandfather to take care of. Although he did not have great wealth and status, Bai Hao was very satisfied and enjoyed the simple and happy life of relying on his grandfather. With Bai Hao's efforts, their lives have also improved, and they have their own homes in a third-tier city. And they also made a girlfriend, and the two have even reached the point of discussing marriage. While Bai Hao was planning for this future, his elderly grandfather couldn't hold on anymore, and years of hard work left his body riddled with wounds. In order to treat his grandfather's illness, Bai Hao sold the newly decorated house and spent all his savings. But what's disappointing is that even so, I still couldn't save my grandfather's life. And because of Bai Hao's move to buy a house, his girlfriend parted ways with him. Bai Hao did not complain about his girlfriend's departure, and he himself knew that he could not provide her with a stable home now. Grandpa's death can be said to have shattered Bai Hao's last glimmer of hope. At this moment, he has lost his goal in life and is at a loss in his heart. Nowadays, not only his grandfather is gone, but also his family. It can be said that Bai Hao is completely naked. Looking at the buyer who came to collect the house, Bai Hao just took the last relic handed to him by his grandfather and immediately left the new house he had carefully decorated. At this time, Bai Hao didn't even have a place to settle down because he had to take care of his seriously ill grandfather. He had already resigned from his previous job. Arriving at the park outside the community, Bai Hao took out the relics that his grandfather had solemnly handed to him. In Bai Hao's memory of over 20 years, he had never seen this object, and he, who had been in a sad state before, had no mood to look through the relics. Looking at the exquisitely shaped rosewood box, Bai Hao felt a wave of doubt in his heart. Bai Hao carefully opened the wooden box and saw a moist and transparent jade seal in front of his eyes. Above the jade seal, there are 9 dragons surrounding it, but at its top is a white fox jade carving. Unlike an ordinary fox, that white fox has 9 tails. Not to mention the contents inside, this wooden box alone is a priceless item that families like them cannot possess. Looking at the wooden box, Bai Hao couldn't help but think of his grandfather's instructions before his death. He didn't take it seriously at first, but the wooden box and jade seal in front of him showed that it was extraordinary. In my grandfather's account, although their family had already declined, they were a very prominent presence in ancient times, and had even produced emperors. After Bai Hao asked in detail, Grandpa couldn't say the inheritance of his family. After all, time has passed too long, and even if this matter is true, it has no meaning. Moreover, Bai Hao went through dynasties several times, but there was no dynasty with the Bai surname, so he didn't pay much attention afterwards. But the jade seal in front of him clearly showed that it was an imperial seal, which made Bai Hao have to doubt the origin of the family. In an instant, Bai Hao became lonely. Even if he knew about it, it didn't help him at all in his current situation. "Grandpa, why? If you had taken it out earlier, wouldn't we have the money to see a doctor, and wouldn't you have died?" Bai Hao said with some sadness. Although Bai Hao was not familiar with jade antiques, he also recognized them as priceless items. Later, Bai Hao's gaze towards Yuyin also changed, and he directly threw Yuyin to the ground. "Grandpa is already dead, what use do I need you for?" Bai Hao shouted sadly. What Bai Hao did not notice was that the jade seal was not destroyed as a result. Instead, it absorbed a tear that Bai Hao had dropped on it, emitting a faint white light. The sudden surge of white light enveloped Bai Hao, opening a space-time black hole. The next second, Bai Hao's trail was lost in the park. Similarly, what Bai Hao didn't know was that the legends of the family were all true. He was not only a descendant of the imperial family, but also a descendant of the ancient imperial family. And that jade seal is not an ordinary imperial jade seal, but a top-quality innate spiritual treasure transformed from the Kongtong seal, which is the spiritual treasure of the human race's transportation. Although Kongtong seal is not an innate treasure, it is even more superior in a certain aspect. At the moment he entered the spacetime black hole, Bai Hao's consciousness had already become unconscious. At the same time, although protected by the jade seal, Bai Hao's body was still melting bit by bit until there was only a drop of silver-white essence left. I saw the essence and blood directly enter Bai Hao's soul, but in the next moment, Bai Hao's soul underwent a huge change. Originally a human soul, it turned into a lovely white fox because of its blood essence. If you look closely, it is exactly the same as the white fox in the jade seal. Fortunately, these changes occurred during Bai Hao's coma, and he did not feel the pain involved. Chapter 2. Ancient Past Events and Old Grudges of Sealing Gods. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At this moment, the Kongtong seal is carrying Bai Hao through time and space, but it is about to return to the ancient wasteland. The Kongtong seal itself lacks spiritual intelligence and does not actively recognize Bai Hao as the master, all of which is due to the nine-tailed fox jade carving on top of the Kongtong seal. There was no jade carving on top of the original Kongtong seal, it was clearly filled in later, and it was precisely this jade carving that was driving the Kongtong seal. Although Bai Hao was in a coma, his consciousness was immersed in a void. Where is this? How could I be here? Bai Hao muttered to himself in confusion. Am I dreaming? At the same time, Bai Hao also realized that he was floating in mid-air. You're not dreaming, this is the spiritual treasure space of the Kongtong seal. A voice full of love and endless charm rang out. Love and charm have no inherent connection, but they blend perfectly here. Kongtong seal. Who are you? What's going on? Am I in the park? Bai Hao asked urgently. Child, it was I who summoned you, and I am your ancestor. That enchanting voice rang out again. Ancestor. What's going on here? Why is it like this? Bai Hao's voice was full of doubt and disbelief. The scene in front of him is no longer something that science can solve. Although Bai Hao has also read some fantasy novels, he still cannot accept what happened to him. Child, I don't have much time left. You can see for yourself. I hope you can change the future of my fox tribe. As soon as the words fell, a white light rushed straight into Bai Hao's eyebrows, which contained countless memories. After accepting that memory, Bai Hao also knew who the owner of the previous voice was, and he also knew his own background and the current situation. It turned out that Grandpa was not wrong. He was really a descendant of the Emperor, and also after the last co-leader of the human race. Bai Hao learned in his memory that he was actually a descendant of King Zhou of Shang in Daji. As a modern person, Bai Hao is not unfamiliar with the concept of Fengshen Yeni, and King Zhou and Daji are representatives of foolish rulers and demonic concubines. However, in his memory, Bai Hao knew that things back then were far from as simple as they seemed. Unlike the present world, there were many practitioners in ancient times, and the human race was not as weak as it appeared. After the Lich Wars, the human race began to develop rapidly, and later experienced the rule of 3 emperors and 5 emperors, making the human race truly the protagonist of heaven and earth. At that time, although the human race was not able to practice, the human emperor had the blessing of humanistic energy. Even saints should not easily attack the human race. Later, due to the suppression of the saints, Haotian requested to be appointed as a deity, which also caused disasters in the human world. In order to promote the development of Western religion, the sage Xuandi personally intervened to deceive King Zhou, causing him to write poems at the Nyuwa temple, offending Nyuwa, and officially opening the prelude to the Great Calamity. Due to King Zhou's lack of collision, Nyuwa was unhappy, but with the protection of human luck, even Nyuwa, as the holy mother of the human race, could not easily take action against the emperor. But would she be willing to give up on Nyuwa like this? Then she sent the 9-tailed fox Daji to deceive King Zhou, damaging the luck of the Shang dynasty and leading the Yin Shang dynasty to its complete downfall. Although Daji was unwilling, he could not go against the will of the sage and could only act obediently. Not only Daji, but also King Zhou of Shang was not a mediocre person. The reason why he did those cruel things to the people was not solely due to the calculation of the sages. In the end, although Daji completed the task, he also became an abandoned child with no chance of survival. Moreover, during more than a decade of interaction, Daji truly fell in love with King Zhou, but fate played tricks on him, and both of them eventually became abandoned children. Daji, who knew his own ending, was not satisfied, so he gathered the strength of the entire dynasty to retrain the Kongtong seal and sent it out with his own offspring. I hope to leave a glimmer of vitality for my own offspring, and also strive for that glimmer of vitality for myself and the Fox tribe. You should know that the Fox clan was once a great clan in the wilderness, but their luck was not good. In several major disasters, all the experts in the clan fell. When the time came to seal the gods, only Daji, a cultivator from the Tai realm, remained. Since Daji, the Fox tribe has become a mountain and wild monster, with no more experts in the tribe. After receiving Daji's memory, Bai Hao also empathized with the tragic fate of the Fox tribe. This time, the Kongtong seal was unexpectedly activated, but Daji wanted to use the power of the Kongtong seal to send Bai Hao back to ancient times, attempting to change the fate of the Fox clan. After activating the Kongtong seal, Daji completely dissipated. As for where he could take Bai Hao, Daji himself is not sure. In Daji's memory, there is not only her experience, but also the inheritance of the Fox tribe. Looking at the long passage, Bai Hao was directly immersed in inheritance, no matter in which era, strength is the fundamental. After passing through the endless passage of time and space, the 9-tailed fox jade carving was also covered in cracks, as if it was about to dissipate in the next second. With a crisp sound, the jade carving finally couldn't withstand the pressure and broke. At the same time, Kongtong Yin also flew out of the time and space passage with the soul of Bai Hao, immersing himself in the ancient flood and wilderness, and then quickly landed on a high mountain. Chapter 3. On the beginning of heaven, 9-tailed heavenly fox. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just as Bai Hao was sorting out and inheriting his memories, Kongtong's seal fulfilled its mission, taking Bai Hao through time and space, back to the ancient times. At the same time, due to crossing time and space, the Kongtong seal has also consumed all its strength and luck. At this time, it has lost its original prestige and degenerated into a high-quality spiritual treasure. However, the shock that traveled through time and space made Bai Hao unconscious, and without Bai Hao's knowledge, he plunged directly into the body of a severely injured 9-tailed fox. Although the Kongtong seal fell from its grade, it also recognized Bai Hao as the main character. After helping him seize it, it disappeared into Bai Hao's sea of consciousness. When Bai Hao was once awake, he suddenly felt a heart-wrenching pain coming. Ah! Due to the sudden sharp pain, Bai Hao couldn't help but scream out. But then Bai Hao was stunned because the sound he emitted was not even human. Immediately afterwards, Bai Hao looked at the scene in front of him in astonishment. At this moment, there was no familiar high-rise building in front of him, only to see him inside a huge cave. The area inside the cave is very huge, and there are many killer bones around the cave, emitting a foul odor. What's going on? How could I be here? Bai Hao said in panic. This time, what Bai Hao emitted was not a beast roar, but a human voice. But even so, it startled him because it was not his own voice at all, and the volume of his voice echoed throughout the entire cave. Although unwilling to accept it, Bai Hao was well aware that he was truly no longer in his original world. And at this moment, he also remembered the previous inheritance. He thought it was just a dream, but when he looked at it again, he had to believe it. At the same time, Bai Hao began to carefully examine himself. As soon as he reached out, he remembered that he was no longer human, and a snow-white beast claw appeared in front of him. After careful sensing, I found 9 snow-white giant tails floating back and forth behind me. 9-tailed fox. Have I really returned to the ancient times? Bai Hao said in shock. This day's experience can be said to have shattered all of Bai Hao's beliefs and cognition, and even more so, he lost his body and transformed into a beast. However, due to the influence of Daji's previous inheritance, he did not panic excessively, but in an instant, he had already recognized his current identity. After accepting reality, Bai Hao planned to get up and understand the current situation. But just as Bai Hao wanted to get up, a sharp pain came and he sat on the ground again. Next, another wave of memory came, but this time it was not an inheritance, but the original memory of this body. Surprisingly, it has truly crossed time and space, but it's already too early. This is the beginning of a new era. Bai Hao said in shock. He, who had originally received the inheritance of Daji, already knew about another world, but the current situation still shocked him greatly. Perhaps even Daji did not expect that using her magical power to activate Kongtong's seal would lead her to the beginning of this vast wilderness. However, this is not the power of Daji, but rather the result of the accumulated merits and luck of Kongtong for billions of years. Perhaps due to the bloodline of the fox tribe, this time Bai Hao occupied the body of the 9-tailed heavenly fox, and was the first heavenly fox in heaven, making him the true ancestor of the fox tribe. Due to Daji's inheritance, her memory has been deeply engraved in Bai Hao's mind, so he has also adapted well to the demon body at this time. But what really surprised Bai Hao was the era he was in at this time. Originally, Daji wanted to seal the tragic ending of the fox tribe among the gods. But I didn't expect that Kongtong had accumulated such terrifying power in these billions of years, and even brought Bai Hao to this beginning of heaven. At this time, only a few 100,000 years have passed since the founding of Pangu, and the great gods of later generations are still being nurtured. Even the 6 saints of later generations have not yet emerged. At this time, some ancient ferocious beasts were occupying the wasteland. They were all transformed by the fierce energy of gods and demons after their death. Although they had high strength, they lacked spiritual intelligence and only knew about killing and destruction. Even the 3 tribes of dragons, phoenixes, and Qilin have not yet risen, and they still struggle to survive in the siege of fierce beasts. As for the strong ones who escaped from the great cataclysm, they are also secretly recovering their strength in various parts of the wilderness. Even Daozu Hongjun and Mozu Luogue have not reached their peak state. For this period of time, even the former leader of the fox tribe, Daji, was not familiar with the wilderness, so Bai Hao's understanding of this time also came closely from the memory of this body. Although the fox tribe in later generations was not powerful and even not valued among the demon tribe, the origin of the nine-tailed heavenly fox is not simple. The reason why the fox tribe in later generations fell is simply because the fox ancestor had bad luck and fell at the beginning of the universe. If it weren't for Bai Hao's arrival, this would have been the death day of Fox Ancestor, and the Fox clan would have gradually fallen into desolation due to Fox Ancestor's downfall. Chapter 4. Acceptance of Identity in the Situation of Floods and Wilderness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a period of fusion, Bai Hao has completely inherited the memory of Fox Ancestor. Although the Fox Ancestor is not well known, his qualifications are not inferior to those of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin ancestors. Although he was not transformed by Pangu, he was also a derivative of the elemental spirit left by the chaotic gods and demons, and was the first batch of gods in the world. However, the fate of these nine-tailed heavenly foxes is not very good. Although the three tribes were destined to fall in the end, they at least once had glory. But these nine-tailed heavenly foxes had poor luck and encountered a formidable enemy at the beginning of the universe, causing serious injuries and dying. Speaking of which, these nine-tailed heavenly foxes are transformed by the fundamental spirit and laws of soul gods and demons, skilled in the divine powers and spells of the soul. As for the enchantment and illusion techniques in later generations, they are just branches of the soul law. After the fall of the Fox Ancestor, there was also a gap in the cultivation of the Fox clan, which is why the name of the enchantment technique was passed down to the world. And Fox Ancestor also emerged from the beginning of heaven and earth, and was a figure of the same period as the three tribal chiefs. Nevertheless, this period was not under their control, but with ferocious beasts rampant. Compared to irrational ferocious beasts, they are truly intelligent beings. After realizing the danger and ferocity of ferocious beasts, they all practice in their respective doors. Due to the complete inheritance of the demon god, Fox Ancestor's strength is also rapidly improving. In just a few tens of thousands of years, he has already cultivated into the Golden Immortal realm. After achieving the Golden Immortal, he no longer shrank, but began to clean up the dojo. He used the power of the Golden Immortal to slaughter all the fierce beasts near Qingqiu Mountain, leaving Qingqiu Mountain completely clean. In the tens of thousands of years of evolution, there have also been some postnatal beings in the wilderness. Although they do not have the innate abilities or the power of fierce beasts, they have considerable wisdom. While Fox Ancestor was clearing Qingqiu Mountain, they also found a support and came together to seek refuge and shelter. Fox Ancestor also readily agreed to this and took them in. In this way, Fox Ancestor also gained a foothold in Qingqiu Mountain and a place in this vast wilderness. At the same time, Zulong, Zufan, and Qilin also left the pass one after another, clearing their own dojo and occupying a region of development strength. Perhaps due to luck, although the Fox Ancestor has never slackened, his strength is still slightly inferior to that of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin. Those three have already achieved the status of Tai Golden Immortal. You should know that the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin are the protagonists of the next level of calamity, and they carry great luck, so their cultivation is twice the result with half the effort. Therefore, those three individuals stood out among the 100 ethnic groups and became the strongest in the face of the vast wilderness. As for the chaotic gods and demons that escaped from the Kaitian cataclysm, such as Hongjun and Luo Gui, they were hidden in the dark and laid out. You should know that although Pangu is strong, there are also many powerful beings among the gods and demons. Many strong individuals have been reborn into the wilderness through physical means, waiting to rise again. The three tribal chiefs were also ambitious individuals, looking at the vast and desolate land, but they were unwilling to disappear among the 100 tribes. So they even spared no expense in consuming their original source, using the power of their original source to reproduce their ethnic groups, giving rise to the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin tribes, laying the foundation for the tripartite struggle in future generations. At this time, the three tribal chiefs could be said to be the strongest in the face of the wilderness, so their actions also attracted many gods to follow suit. Although there are also many races that have surrendered to Qingqiu Mountain, those are also outsiders. Seeing this fox ancestor also moved my mind. And for this, he consumed his cultivation and transformed the fox clan, while he himself fell from the peak of the golden immortal cultivation to the early stage of the golden immortal. Although his cultivation fell, looking at those fox tribes, fox ancestor seemed to have seen his own descendants and did not regret it. At this time, although the wasteland was dominated by ferocious beasts, there were also many innate creatures, such as the heavenly lion, silver wolf, and the elephants. Not only the fox ancestor, but also these innate deities have imitated the three races one by one, creating and reproducing their own races. For a time, it was 100 races that emerged in the wilderness. After the emergence of the fox clan, the fox ancestor taught these clan members how to cultivate while improving their own strength. He doesn't have that much ambition, he just wants to maintain the foundation of Qingqiu Mountain and protect the safe survival of the fox tribe. But everything is not as expected, especially in a place full of danger like the flood and famine. Sometimes when you don't ask for trouble, trouble will come to you. Although fox ancestor didn't want trouble, the creatures of Qingqiu Mountain still caught the attention of the fierce beast clan. Although he has good strength, he is still inferior to those ferocious beasts who only know how to kill. After experiencing a great war, although fox ancestor annihilated the ferocious beast, he himself also reached the point of running out of oil and light. The saying goes that when a tree falls, monkeys scatter. After he was seriously injured, the weak races that had previously attached themselves to him also left one after another, seeking new support. Now only the fox tribe is still guarding him, guarding tightly outside the Qingqiu Mountain. After accepting the memory of fox ancestor, Bai Hao not only mourned for fox ancestor, but also understood a truth. Here is not a question of whether you want to fight or not, but of having to fight. If there is no absolute strength, the only way to welcome him is to destroy him. From today on, I, Bai Hao, will be the ancestor of the fox and will definitely lead the fox tribe out of difficulties. You can go with peace of mind, Bai Hao said firmly. As Bai Hao's words fell, he felt a sense of relief all over his body, but it completely occupied his body. The original fox ancestor was most concerned about the fox clan. After Bai Hao swore, his last bit of obsession disappeared, and his memories and experiences completely merged with Bai Hao. Speaking of which, it was also Bai Hao's luck. He had traveled long enough, and even the heavenly Tao could not detect his existence. At this time, the heavenly Tao is still recovering from the trauma of the founding of heaven, so there is no time to manage the affairs of the flood and famine. As a result, no one discovered the identity of Bai Hao as an outsider, and by this time he had completely merged with the fox ancestor. Even if the heavenly way reappears in the future, there is no need to worry about being identified. He is the nine-tailed heavenly fox, the ancestor of the fox clan. Chapter 5. The current situation of the fox clan transforming into forms. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After accepting the current situation, Bai Hao also had to lament that the fate of this fox ancestor was really bad. The original fox ancestor actually had no ambition, he only wanted to protect his own tribe and those who sheltered under his wings. But he didn't trouble found him. This fierce beast raid can be said to have dealt a fatal blow to the fox tribe. Although fox ancestor relied on the peak strength of the golden immortal to slay the fierce beasts completely, he himself also reached a state of exhaustion. If it weren't for Bai Hao's passing and arrival, with the help of the Kongtong seal, maintaining the life of the fox ancestor with his remaining spiritual energy, he would probably have been completely shattered by this time. You should know that there is no place for reincarnation at this time. Once a living creature dies, it is truly dead, and the soul is shattered. As fox ancestor was seriously injured and on the brink of death, those races that had surrendered to him also left and sought refuge again. After fox ancestor was seriously injured, the entire Qingqiu Mountain fell into a state of panic. Originally, due to the existence of the fox ancestor, although the fox clan was not as strong as the dragon and phoenix clan, it was also stronger than the 100 clans, with hundreds of thousands of members. But the previous disaster dealt a heavy blow to Fox Ancestor. Apart from Fox Ancestor being seriously injured, there were also no surviving members of his tribe, and only a few thousand people were left from the original hundreds of thousands. And the once peaceful Qingqiu mountain has become littered with corpses, but now only this main peak has been preserved under the protection of many Fox tribes. I never expected that the Fox tribe at the beginning of the flood would be so difficult, but don't worry, now that I have taken over your body, I will naturally protect the remaining members of the tribe. After understanding the current situation of the Fox tribe, Bai Hao fully accepted the reality and recognized the Fox tribe. But I still can't get used to this beast-like appearance, Bai Hao said after taking a breath. At this time, although the nine-tailed heavenly fox was a beast, it had already transformed into a Taoist form as early as the time of the Golden Immortal. However, before that, he had run out of oil and had run out of lamps, and could not maintain his Tao body at all. Although Bai Hao accepted his current identity, he still couldn't adapt to such a body. Fortunately, he has fully inherited the memory of Fox Ancestor. Although some combat supernatural powers are not yet proficient, he is still adept at those practical small spells. Immediately, Bai Hao gathered a newly restored trace of spiritual energy, used the method of transformation, and transformed it into a Tao body. A dazzling white light flashed by, and the huge nine-tailed fox in the cave lost its figure. Instead, a handsome young man appeared in place. I saw this young man dressed in white, although his face was sickly pale, it did not diminish his charm. His handsome appearance carried a heart-stirring charm. At this time, in the vast wilderness, anyone who can transform into a Taoist form is a person with top-notch qualifications, so there are no ugly people among them. But Bai Hao's appearance was the most beautiful among them. Although he was very weak at this time, he still carried a captivating charm. At this time, Bai Hao had completely inherited the cultivation of Fox Ancestor. As he was not transforming for the first time, there was no mention of transforming into a thunderbolt, and everything seemed very natural. The first impression of the Fox tribe in later generations is charm, and it's not unreasonable, Bai Hao sighed after seeing his current appearance. Although he may not have achieved great success in later generations, he is still very confident in his appearance, but compared to today, it seems like the difference between heaven and earth. The enchanting technique of the Fox clan, although an accessory of the soul law, has also been engraved into the bone marrow. Not to mention others, even Bai Hao himself has been unable to regain consciousness for a long time. While Bai Hao was shocked by his appearance, the movement in the cave caught the attention of the Fox tribe. Unlike those outsiders, although there are only over 1,000 left in the Fox tribe today, they are absolutely loyal to the Fox Ancestor. After being seriously injured, Fox Ancestor has always been guarding outside the cave. "Brother, did you wake up?" Before the arrival of the person, a voice of anxiety and joy first spread into the cave. Immediately after, a girl with unparalleled beauty entered the cave. "Brother, are you okay?" The girl looked at Bai Hao, who had been transformed into a human figure, in shock. At this moment, although Bai Hao was still seriously injured, his lifeless energy dissipated without a trace. "Well, there's finally a glimmer of opportunity, but these days you've been working hard," Bai Hao said with a smile. Inheriting all the memories of the Fox Ancestor, Bai Hao is not unfamiliar with a young girl. Although this girl may seem delicate, she is the strongest among the Fox clan outside of Bai Hao. At the same time, she was also the first member of the tribe created by Bai Hao, who had a strange dependence on him. Although the two were named after their siblings, in the girl's heart, Bai Hao was like a father. Ling'er is not suffering, as long as brother is okay, Ling'er can do anything. Looking at Bai Hao, the young girl Bai Ling burst into tears of joy. "Well, everything will be fine," Bai Hao awkwardly comforted Bai Ling. "Brother, how is your injury now?" Bai Ling still asked with some concern. "Ling'er, don't worry. Although I haven't fully recovered yet, I don't have any worries about my life anymore," Bai Hao said with a smile. "That's good. Upon hearing this, Bai Ling let out a sigh of relief. In fact, she has had a difficult time recently. During the period when Bai Hao was seriously injured and unconscious, as the only golden immortal powerhouse in the clan, she had to support the affairs of the clan. But as news of Bai Hao's serious injury spread, there were also many ambitious individuals who wanted to subdue the power of the Fox clan, as well as Qingqiu Dongtian. Although she also has the cultivation level of a golden immortal, it is only in its early stages and cannot be compared to Bai Hao. At first it was better, but as time passed, the cultivation of those who came to provoke also became stronger. At this point, she was already tired of dealing with it. Although Bai Ling defended the Fox tribe, the territory that originally belonged to the Fox tribe continued to shrink until only this main peak remained. Furthermore, all the spiritual medicines and treasures accumulated by the Fox tribe over the years have been snatched away. Ling'e was incompetent and couldn't keep Qingqiu Mountain. Even some genius treasures were stolen, otherwise my brother would definitely recover faster, Bai Ling said with some guilt. It's okay, it's not your fault at all. You've done a great job already. Don't worry, I'll retrieve everything they took one by one, Bai Hao said confidently. Well, I believe in my brother, Bai Ling said happily. Chapter 6 Future Plan. The Cheers of the Clan. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Previously, Fox Ancestor was seriously injured and unconscious after the war, so although Bai Hao knew that the situation of the Fox clan would not be too good, he did not know the specifics. Until the arrival of Bai Ling, Bai Hao learned about the current situation of the Fox tribe. Although Bai Hao was not the original Fox Ancestor, he admitted his identity at the moment he accepted the memory and was willing to take on this responsibility. In the mouth of Bai Ling, it was learned that at this time, in addition to his severely injured self and Bai Ling from the early stage of the Golden Immortal, there were also hundreds of members of the Heavenly Immortal clan, and the remaining ones were only some immature cubs. As for those true and mysterious immortals, all of them died in battle at the beginning. The surviving members of these clans, however, were protected within their clan due to their weak strength and did not participate in the war. Although he had never truly experienced that great war, Bai Hao still felt a surge of sadness. You should know that this is still the beginning of the universe, and the cultivation of sentient beings is not exceptionally strong. The strongest strength on the surface is only the Tai Golden Immortal realm. Due to his inheritance in later generations, Bai Hao is still very clear about the division of the realm of the wilderness. They are heavenly immortal, true immortal, Xian, Jingxian, Tai Jingxian, Daoyuo Jingxian, Zhuansheng, and Sage in sequence. However, nowadays, apart from Tai Jingxian, no one has reached a higher level. Perhaps the gods and demons who escaped from the great calamity, such as Hongjun, have arrived, but they have not appeared in front of people at this time. And although these people have escaped the calamity of the founding of heaven, they have all suffered considerable damage, and at this time, they are all hiding in the dark licking their wounds. As for the realm before the immortal path, it is currently non-existent. Although there is no inheritance at this time, the current creatures are born in a fairyland, and as long as they reach adulthood, they are in the realm of immortality. After losing a large number of strong members of the clan, the Fox clan also fell to the lowest level of power, and even had the possibility of annihilating the clan at any time. Brother, what should we do now? The Silver Wolf clan and Golden Feather clan around us are all plotting against our Fox clan these days. Bai Ling asked anxiously. Although Bai Hao's sobriety brought her joy, she never forgot the crisis of the Fox tribe at this time. Silver Wolf, Golden Feather, they can actually take advantage of the fire to rob, Bai Hao said coldly. Yeah. They were very respectful and obedient to us back then, and it was them who didn't want to be the first to challenge us, Bai Ling said in a resentful voice. Alright, you don't have to worry too much. Although I'm injured and unable to take action now, Qingqiu Mountain is not so easy to break through, Bai Hao comforted. I know, but they are really going too far. If it weren't for the formation set by the main peak's brother, we wouldn't have been wiped out, Bai Ling said angrily. Wait a little longer, as long as I recover from my injury, it's time for them to pay the price, Bai Hao said coldly. For those two tribes, Bai Hao also had an impression. When Fox Ancestor was strong, they also sheltered under Fox Ancestor's wings. They were able to reproduce safely here and have received a lot of favor from the Fox tribe, but they didn't expect to fall into trouble at this time. Well, I know now, they will definitely pay the price, Bai Ling said, suppressing her anger in her heart. Alright, you should also go out and comfort the tribe members. I think they have been very panicked lately, Bai Hao instructed Bai Ling. Don't worry, brother. I'll go now. They must be very happy to know that my brother is safe and sound, Bai Ling said happily. Go ahead, I'm also going to start closed-door therapy, Bai Hao said weakly. Well, then I won't disturb my brother, Bai Ling said obediently. Later, Bai Ling left the cave, which was different from entering. At this moment, she was completely relaxed. Auntie, how is grandfather doing? Yeah, Auntie, did grandfather wake up? As soon as Bai Ling walked out of the cave, the tribe members guarding outside nervously asked, now Bai Hao is their only hope, and they are all living in fear these days. Well, brother, he's already sober. Although he's still injured, he's not in any major trouble anymore. Without keeping them waiting for a long time, Bai Ling directly revealed Bai Hao's status regarding this matter. Really, that's great. Grandfather really woke up. My ancestors have awakened, and our Fox tribe has hope. That's really great. As the news of Bai Hao spread, the people outside were overjoyed, sweeping away the previous oppression. Alright, everyone be quiet, Bai Ling said again as she looked at the excited tribe members. As Bai Ling's voice fell, the excited tribe members suppressed their excitement and silently watched Bai Ling. Although my brother is awake now, he needs time to heal his injuries, and what we need to do is to guard the formation well and wait for him to leave the level. At that time, my brother will definitely lead us to reclaim everything that once belonged to us, and make those petty people pay the price. In front of Bai Hao, Bai Ling is a well-behaved younger sister, but in front of her tribe, she also has absolute authority. She is the second most powerful Jin Xian in the clan, and her position in the clan is only second to Bai Hao. The tribe did not have any doubts about Bai Ling's words at will. After knowing that Bai Hao had already regained consciousness, all the members of the tribe were shouting in their hearts, waiting for Bai Hao to pass and lead them to reclaim everything that belonged to them. At the same time, their enthusiasm for cultivation was also unprecedentedly high, and they were all preparing. Watching the tribe members change their fighting spirit again, Bai Ling was also very happy. The Fox tribe finally managed to survive. Chapter 7. Lingbao, a companion for closed-door healing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After pacifying the tribe, Bai Ling also opened all the mountain protection formation. There are many people around who peep at the Fox tribe, but they are also some weak small tribes. The strongest Silver Wolf and Golden Feather among them are only in the middle stage of the Golden Immortal period, and the great formation of Qingqiu Mountain was built at the peak of the Fox Ancestor, which is not something they can break through. After opening the mountain protection formation, Bai Ling led the entire clan to start intense cultivation. Although she believed in Bai Hao, she didn't want to burden everything on him alone. She also wanted to help Bai Hao instead of always sheltering under his wings. Although Bai Hao has always been in the cave, with the power of his soul, he is also clear about the changes of the entire Fox tribe. Watching his clan members actively practicing, Bai Hao smiled with relief. Although he can protect the Fox tribe, the development of a tribe does not rely solely on one person, but requires everyone to work together. While the entire Fox clan was practicing nervously, Bai Hao was also preparing to retreat and heal his injuries. After all, this severely injured body was really inconvenient. After placing a layer of prohibition in the cave, Bai Hao sat in a spiral and entered a deep level of meditation. Bai Hao, who was about to settle down, realized that his body was riddled with wounds and holes. If it weren't for the vitality brought by the Kongtong seal, he wouldn't have died again. The previous war almost consumed all the vitality of Fox Ancestor, and at this time, his muscles and veins were also riddled with wounds, even Shihai was in a state of lethargy. At this moment his body can be deadly even with a few major movements, not to mention the operation of martial arts. So he didn't rush to use the technique, but slowly repaired his muscles and meridians with the help of that little spiritual energy. As an innate deity, cultivation has been engraved into his bone marrow and does not require any mental effort. So while repairing his muscles and meridians, Bai Hao devoted all his heart and mind to the sea of consciousness. In the wilderness, there were countless cultivators, but at this time no one preached or received teachings, so they relied on their innate inheritance to practice. There are countless laws in the world, and practitioners also have their own emphasis based on their inheritance. There are those who value the physical body, some specialize in laws, and some who focus on divine powers and magical powers. As the inheritor of soul gods and demons, Bai Hao's cultivation focuses on the soul and the elemental god. Although his physical magical power is good, it is still much inferior to the elemental god. Although he is only a cultivation level of the Golden Immortal, his spiritual strength is comparable to that of the Tai Golden Immortal. When Bai Hao first arrived at Shihai, he was shocked by the boundless Shihai. At this moment, Bai Hao seemed to be immersed in an endless ocean, surrounded by seawater transformed by the power of his soul. Due to his complete integration with the Fox Ancestor, Bai Hao has no obstacles here. Although Bai Hao was shocked by the vastness of this place, the previous trauma not only affected his physical body, but also caused significant damage to the sea of consciousness. At this moment, the sea of consciousness, which should have been bright, is a bleak place, with cracks scattered along its boundaries. Countless soul power dissipates from those cracks. This place is really like a bottomless pit. If the sea of consciousness cannot be repaired, even if the physical body is completely restored, it will be in vain. Bai Hao sighed with a gloomy expression. If this kind of injury had been replaced by an ordinary person, the soul would have long been shattered. The reason why Fox Ancestor was able to hold on to Bai Hao's arrival was because he relied on his companion's spirit treasure. As the first generation of creatures and inheritors of soul gods and demons, Fox Ancestor naturally has great fortune, carrying accompanying spiritual treasures from birth. In this boundless sea of consciousness, besides the constantly fading power of the soul, there are two things floating in mid-air. Upon closer inspection, it was an emerald green jade flute and a jade seal. For that jade seal, Bai Hao was not unfamiliar, it was the Kongtong seal that took him across this place. At this time, the Kongtong seal also underwent significant changes. Due to the passage of time and space, not only did it consume the magic left by Daji, but also the power of faith of the human race above it had been completely consumed. At the same time, the grade of Kongtong seal has also declined, and the top-level spiritual treasure comparable to the highest treasure has been downgraded to a top-grade innate spiritual treasure. Another item was the original companion spiritual treasure of Fox Ancestor, the jade flute, which is also a top-grade innate spiritual treasure. Although this jade flute is only a top-grade innate spiritual treasure, Bai Hao, who has received complete inheritance, has never looked down upon it in the slightest. Although this jade flute is a top-grade innate spiritual treasure at this time, it was originally a companion treasure of soul gods and demons. Although this jade flute may not be as powerful as the chaos treasure, it is also a chaos spirit treasure that is even more powerful than the innate treasure. The reason why it dropped its rank is because it suffered a catastrophic disaster. It is precisely because of this that Bai Hao attaches great importance to it. Although he wants to restore his level during the recovery period, it is not inferior to becoming a saint. However, if the conditions are sufficient, there is still a chance. There are levels of cultivation, and the same goes for spiritual treasures, which are ranked from low to high, lower grade innate spiritual treasure, middle grade innate spiritual treasure, upper grade innate spiritual treasure, and top-grade innate spiritual treasure. Of course, there are also innate treasures that exist afterwards. In this vast wilderness, the innate treasure is already the ultimate, and the chaotic spiritual treasure and chaotic treasure on it only exist during the chaotic period. However, like the chaos gods and demons, they both suffered a catastrophic disaster, shattering into countless innate spiritual treasures scattered throughout the wilderness. Speaking of which, the fox ancestor is indeed quite homely. Although the number of innate spiritual treasures is freely determined, as a living creature at the beginning of heaven, having only one spiritual treasure is somewhat shabby. Although Bai Hao was moved by the unclaimed spiritual treasures from the outside world, it was not the right time yet. He still had to deal with his injuries first. At this moment, these two spiritual treasures were releasing spiritual light, suppressing the entire sea of consciousness. If it weren't for these two spiritual treasures, Bai Hao's sea of consciousness would have been shattered long ago. At this time, although Bai Hao also inherited the inheritance of soul gods and demons, it was not easy to recover the trauma of the sea. To restore divine consciousness, one still needs to rely on the power of those two innate spiritual treasures. After understanding his current situation, Bai Hao immediately began refining spiritual treasures. Chapter 8. Zhenyun Lingbao's Wound Healing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. With Bai Hao's severely injured body, refining spiritual treasures is not an easy task. However, the jade flute was originally his companion spiritual treasure, and before that, the fox ancestor had already thoroughly refined it. All he needs to do at this moment is to familiarize himself with it again for the convenience of future use. As for the Kongtong seal, although this spiritual treasure has not been refined, when he traveled through time and space with Bai Hao, it also merged with Bai Hao's flesh and blood, automatically recognizing its owner. Because he inherited the memory of Fox Ancestor and the inheritance of Daji, Bai Hao easily refined the jade flute and Kongtong seal. As the companion treasure of soul gods and demons, the jade flute naturally has infinite potential and the power to capture souls and soul. Although it is only a top-quality innate spiritual treasure, its power is not inferior to that of a top-quality spiritual treasure. For the power of the jade flute, Bai Hao had anticipated it for a long time. What truly surprised Bing Yu was the Kongtong seal, or at this time, it could not be called Kongtong seal. You should know that there is no human race at this time, and the Kongtong seal, as the treasure of the human race, naturally does not exist in this time and space. At this point, there was no trace of the human aura on the Kongtong seal, and even the 9 dragons, which symbolized this human aura, disappeared without a trace. Although this jade seal has severed its connection with the human race, its ability to suppress qi has not diminished. Now you are also my companion treasure. From now on, you will be called Sanqing, which is the spiritual treasure of my fox tribe's transportation. Bai Hao looked at the jade seal in his hand and said. As Bai Hao's words fell, Sanqing released a pure white aura. Immediately above the jade seal, a 9-tailed celestial fox did indeed appear in the position where the 9 dragons were originally occupying. The appearance of the heavenly fox is actually the same as that of Bai Hao at this time, and at this time, the Sanqing seal is closely linked with the luck of the Fox clan. At the same time, Bai Hao felt a mysterious force descending on him. Although he had never seen this power before, he also had a realization that it was the power of qi, which belonged to the Fox tribe. Although qi luck cannot be seen or touched, it actually exists. If one has strong qi luck, even in danger, they can still succeed. On the contrary, if one's luck is shallow, they will encounter difficulties everywhere, even losing their body and path. The previous Fox tribe was like this. In terms of talent, the Fox ancestor was not inferior to the saints such as Sanqing, but his luck was not good, and he could only fall into the ancient wilderness. Even the Fox tribe is like this. Although there are many talented individuals, they are still gradually falling into desolation. But now with this town luck spiritual treasure, it's different. At this time, the luck of the Fox tribe will no longer leak out. With the seal of the mortal world suppressing the luck of the fox tribe, the cultivation of the tribe will also be smoother. Okay, now you can be considered as sharing the same honor and disgrace with me. Although you are only a top-grade innate spiritual treasure at this time, with the strength of the fox tribe, you will definitely advance again, no weaker than the previous Kongtong seal. Although Lingbao does not have spiritual intelligence, it is also a spiritual object that knows in the dark what is the best choice. As soon as Bai Hao finished speaking, Sanqing emitted a soft white light, as if affirming Bai Hao's words and expressing determination. This spiritual light is the inherent spiritual light of the spiritual treasure, and its function is not so simple. Where the spiritual light shines, Bai Hao's injury has improved a bit. Okay, now that everything is ready, it's time to start healing, Bai Hao said with a smile. Immediately, he made a decisive move in his hand, manipulating that Sanqing seal to actively repair the cracks in the sea of consciousness. At the same time, Bai Hao also held the jade flute in his hand, and a simple and melodious sound of shao appeared in the sea of consciousness. Under the manipulation of the jade flute, the boundless power of the soul turns into threads, repairing the shattered sea of consciousness. Under the dual effects of Sanqing and Biyu Shao, Bai Hao's sea of consciousness is gradually being repaired. However, Bai Hao's injury was too severe. Even with the help of two spiritual treasures, it took 50 years to fully repair the sea of consciousness. While Bai Hao was recuperating in seclusion, the fox tribe also underwent earth-shattering changes. The condensation of qi brings benefits to all members of the tribe. Those tribe members who were originally struggling with cultivation also made rapid progress, and Bai Ling broke through to the middle stage of the Golden Immortal in one fell swoop. Those ordinary people have also made significant progress, including several true and mysterious immortal powerhouses. At this point, even without the protection of the formation, with the strength of Bai Ling, it is still enough to resist external enemies. The movements of the Fox clan in recent years have naturally attracted the attention of surrounding forces, especially the Silver Wolf clan and the Golden Feather clan. After knowing that Bai Hao's life was not long, they had already regarded the Fox tribe as their own treasure. You should know that the strength of the Fox clan used to be among the top among the 100 clans in the wilderness, and this Qingqiu mountain is a top-notch paradise. After realizing that the Fox clan had set up a large formation, they constantly came to provoke and attempted to deceive people out of the formation. Although they were eager for this cave, they still couldn't break the formation set by Bai Hao back then. Although they calculated well, with Bai Hao's arrangement, how could Bai Ling fall for it? However, with Bai Ling's breakthrough in cultivation, although she could not defeat the Silver Wolf and Zhenyun's alliance, she was also not afraid of them. After seeing the strength of Bai Ling, those two tribes calmed down quite a bit. Over the past 50 years, Bai Hao not only repaired the sea of consciousness, but also restored the muscles and meridians within his body to their original state. 50 years have passed, and finally we have succeeded, Bai Hao sighed weakly. Although he has gained a lot of inheritance, Bai Hao was just an ordinary person in his past life. 50 years has already been the majority of ordinary people, but here it is just an ordinary seclusion. And the reason why he is weak is because he was only healing before, and all the spiritual energy in his body was used to restore his muscles and meridians. At this time, he is like an ordinary person. Now that all my injuries have gone, it's time to start practicing again. You know, there are still many opportunities waiting for me outside. Bai Hao said longingly. After discovering that all the members of the tribe outside were very safe, Bai Hao once again began to shut down. Chapter 9 Fusion Technique. 9 Transformations of the Heavenly Fox Technique. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At this time, the flood and famine can be said to be a chaotic period, and there is no systematic way to practice. This hidden path of the heavenly way has not had a period of great transmission, and they are all practicing based solely on this inheritance. Unlike those who only know their instincts and absorb spiritual energy, top-level innate gods and demons like Bai Hao have been passed down to some extent. And the original fox ancestor also created a martial art through this inheritance, and it is precisely with this heavenly fox decision that he occupies a piece of land here. However, at this time, Bai Hao had other choices, as he had also received the inheritance of Daji. Although Daji's qualifications are not comparable to those of the fox ancestor, let alone the inheritance of soul gods and demons, she has a systematic cultivation method that is far beyond what the rough heavenly fox can match today. However, Jianhu Ju also has his advantages, and the way of the rules is also mysterious, directly pointing to the origin of the soul. In the eyes of Bai Hao at this time, both the original cultivation techniques of fox ancestor and the inheritance of Daji were not so perfect. Although Daji has a systematic cultivation method, due to her identity, Nuwa has never passed down any advanced techniques. For Nuwa, Daji was just a chess piece that could be abandoned at any time. Since Bai Hao was reborn at this moment, he naturally wouldn't be willing to be ordinary. His martial arts can be said to be the foundation of a cultivator, and he didn't want to compromise. Since these techniques are not satisfactory, why not create your own unique technique? After hesitating for a moment, Bai Hao had his own plan. Although he was just an ordinary mortal in his past life, he also read some Taoist teachings. Although I didn't understand its meaning before, after receiving the inheritance from fox ancestor and Daji, I have gained some understanding of its profound meaning. Moreover, he is not just a recreation of martial arts, but rather a fusion of the two inheritances, allowing them to complement each other. Although the fox ancestor is a top-level innate deity, he does not have many martial arts mastered, only a heavenly fox decision and a sound skill divine power. Compared to fox ancestor, Daji's inheritance is much beyond expectations. In the original trajectory, there was also a gap in the inheritance of the fox clan after the death of the fox ancestor, but the strong members of the clan also integrated many inheritances. And this inheritance naturally fell into the hands of Daji. In addition to the inheritance of the fox ancestor, Daji also gained many martial arts techniques from Nuwa. Although these techniques were not powerful, they were superior in all aspects. It's not surprising that Bai Hao inherited these skills. What really sets him apart is that Daji still has the inheritance of Sanqing. Although it's not the core skill, it's enough to surprise Bai Hao. After carefully flipping through his memories, Bai Hao understood the origins of these legacies. As a nine-tailed fox, although Daji's cultivation is not strong, he is also a rare wise person. Although unable to disobey Nuwa's orders, she has been searching for a way to escape, ultimately all due to the weak power of the fox tribe. So Daji also devoted himself to cultivation in the days to come, but unfortunately, without advanced techniques, everything was just half the effort. And the inheritance of these three virtues comes precisely from the human race. As the protagonist of heaven and earth, the human race naturally has countless inheritances. The inheritance of these three clears is the legacy of the three teachings in those years. Unfortunately, although Daji has many martial arts, he cannot inherit the core, so even in the end, Daji still cannot escape the fate of being abandoned. Although Daji's soul had long dissipated, Bai Hao still felt helplessness and anger in it. Don't worry. Since I was reborn here, I will definitely change the fate of the Fox clan and won't let you go through those calculations again, Bai Hao said firmly. Not to mention that he was originally a descendant of the Daji lineage, even if he was able to be reborn here, it was all thanks to Daji's legacy. Although Bai Hao had made up his mind, these things were too early. At this time, not to mention Daji, even Sanqing and Nuwa had not yet been born. The top priority now is to integrate martial arts and recover from injuries. At this time, the wilderness was not a peaceful and prosperous era. Although the current cultivators were not as strong as the quasi-saints and saints of later generations, they were undoubtedly even more chaotic. Bai Hao wants to change the fate of the future Fox tribe, so his first priority is to save the Fox tribe in this fierce beast catastrophe. At present, Bai Hao no longer hesitated, but completely immersed himself in the sea of consciousness, integrating thousands of martial arts with Tianhu Ju as the main focus, and creating his own unique martial arts. In the sea of consciousness, the primordial gods of the White Sea are divided into 9, each occupying one side and evolving their techniques. In a moment, there was a great change in the appearance of the sea, where the breath of Buddha, Taoism, demons, and demons were all revealed. But it was Bai Hao who was simulating martial arts to achieve the best fusion. In this wilderness, the least valuable thing is time. Previously, Bai Hao spent 50 years repairing his body, but this time he spent 300 years deducing his martial arts. Time is really worthless here. 300 years have passed in the blink of an eye, Bai Hao sighed as he opened his eyes. However, all of these were worth it. I finally created the most suitable technique for myself, Bai Hao continued with a smile. At this point, Bai Hao had already integrated all the functional methods and formed his own divine skill technique. The reason why it took so long is because he not only created a cultivation technique. This martial art called Jiuzhuan Tianhu Ju contains everything, including techniques, martial arts, and divine powers. Moreover, unlike the current martial arts, this 9 transformations heavenly fox technique is a unique one that directly connects to the quasi-holy realm in this time of chaos. In this way, our fox tribe can also be considered to have a complete inheritance, Bai Hao said happily. Chapter 10. Cultivation and Restoration of Fox Clan Crisis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The 9 transformations heavenly fox is named after the 9 transformations, but it has a total of 9 layers. As long as the cultivation reaches the 9 transformations, it can establish the position of a quasi-saint. As for the true state of being a saint, it was not something that Bai Hao could understand at this time. Being able to deduce the martial arts to this extent was already his limit. In addition to his main cultivation techniques, Bai Hao also created a method of sound practice, which includes his understanding of the law of the soul, which can be said to be his strongest means at this time. In addition to the technique of sound attack, there are also close combat techniques, calculation techniques, and the technique of flying clouds and mist, not to mention anything else. This one alone is enough for the rise of the fox tribe. Although he has not yet truly experienced the Sanqing technique, Bai Hao is confident that his own technique is definitely not inferior to others. Now that the inheritance of martial arts has settled down, it's time to truly start practicing, Bai Hao said with confidence on his face. Thinking of this, Bai Hao did not delay and directly transported the 9-turn heavenly fox Ju. As Bai Hao began to practice, the spiritual energy around him gathered towards him at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just an instant, the invisible and intangible spiritual energy transformed into a mist, enveloping Bai Hao's entire body. This Qingqiu mountain is already a top-notch cave in the wilderness, so naturally there is no lack of spiritual energy here. Although the fox tribe has been shrinking over the years, this main peak has never been lost, giving the fox tribe hope for a resurgence. And Bai Hao's cultivation also indirectly influenced the people of his tribe outside. Since Bai Hao's seclusion, other members of his tribe have been worried about his safety, and have never left the cave for cultivation or work. It is precisely because of this that when Bai Hao began to gather spiritual energy, they were also the first beneficiaries and broke through again with the help of the spiritual energy of this place. Due to the conversion of techniques, Bai Hao started from the most basic first layer and rebuilt his foundation. I saw the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth being rapidly sucked into Bai Hao's body, nourishing his long-dried meridians. Due to the improvement of the technique, the running route this time is no longer the same, but more mysterious than before. Under the same realm, the current Bai Hao is also incomparable to the original fox ancestor. A good martial arts book directly determines a person's combat power. Although the original owner was seriously injured, at least he was also a strong member of the Golden Immortal, so Bai Hao's cultivation was also very smooth, and there was no bottleneck before the Golden Immortal. However, in order to increase his foundation, it took him 50 years to break through to the Golden Immortal realm, which is the 6th level of his martial arts. After breaking through the Golden Immortal, Bai Hao's cultivation slowed down, while the original master's accumulation had already been exhausted. However, despite this, Bai Hao did not leave the level and continued to cultivate. His strength has also gradually broken through to the peak of the Golden Immortal. At this time, although Bai Hao was on the same level as the previous Fox Ancestor, his combat power far exceeded that of the original owner. Now, he has the ability to fight at higher levels. However, Bai Hao is still not so satisfied with his current strength. The strength of the Golden Immortal Peak can only be considered decent here, but it is not enough to lead the rise of the Fox clan. Not to mention the great supernatural beings hidden in the dark, Bai Hao is also far behind the chiefs of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin tribes. So he did not shut himself down, but instead began to challenge the bottleneck of cultivation again, breaking through towards the Tai Golden Immortal. Practice lasts for countless years, but in the blink of an eye, 1,000 years have already passed. After Bai Hao closed down, the entire Fox tribe once again ignited hope, especially after sensing the atmosphere inside the cave. They were full of confidence. But this confidence has changed with the passage of time. Thousands of years have passed, but Bai Hao has never passed the level. Slowly, the people of the tribe began to worry about the safety of Bai Hao. And at this time, the Fox tribe was once again in a state of crisis. Although Qingqiu Mountain is naturally rich, it is not enough to consume the entire Fox tribe. And the millennia of stable life has also led to a surge in the number of Fox tribe members, with over 1,000 people reproducing to nearly 10,000 people. But now the Fox tribe is once again in crisis, not from outside, but because of insufficient resources. Auntie, it's been 1,000 years, why hasn't our ancestor left the pass yet? A member of the Xianxian realm asked with concern. Almost, I feel like the spiritual energy in the Tianhu cave has broken through during this time. I think my brother is also about to leave the level, Bai Ling quickly comforted. Oh, it doesn't matter to us, but the newly born offspring in the clan are almost out of food. Another clan member also looked worried. I know it all, don't worry, if my brother still can't pass the level within 10 days, I'll take you to kill him. After hesitating for a moment, Bai Ling still made this decision. The Fox tribe nowadays can't afford it anymore. If they don't go out to search for resources, those cubs may starve to death. And they can be said to be the future of the Fox tribe, but Bai Ling cannot watch such things happen. But there are still silver wolves and golden feathers guarding outside. Upon hearing this, the Xianxian tribe member became even more worried. But we can't just watch those newly born people starve to death like this. Bai Ling said sorrowfully. I know, but those are the two giants at the peak of the Golden Immortals. Although my aunt is also at the peak of the Golden Immortals, it is difficult to resist them both. The clan members still feel uneasy. So what? I can't let my clan members wait to die. If my brother hasn't passed the level by then, I can only fight hard, Bai Ling said firmly. The tribe still tried to persuade, but found that they didn't know what to say. Bai Ling was right. Even if there was no chance of winning, they couldn't watch their descendants starve to death. That's all we can do. I'll be with my aunt then, said the Xianxian tribe member. And me, there is no one in our Fox tribe who is afraid of death, but this time we need to fight hard, said another tribe member. Subsequently, everyone came forward to sign up, attempting to use the strength of the entire clan to fight against the Silver Wolf and Golden Feather clans. Alright, I understand the intentions of all the members of the tribe, but we still have hope. Brother, he is about to leave the level, Bai Ling said, looking in the direction of the Tianhu cave. Although she is not afraid of battle, she also has self-awareness. In the absence of Bai Hao, the Fox tribe is not a match for those two tribes at all.